സെറ്റപ്പ് കൊടുക്കണ്ടേ ഇവന്റില്ലേ നമ്മുടെ
പിന്നെ അവിടെ നിന്ന് അടുത്തല്ലേ അങ്ങോട്ട് പോകാൻ കാരണം ചെന്ന
എനിക്കൊന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
Could we start? Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
We are
Good
live.
evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
Yeah,
evening, sir.
good evening.
Ma'am, is it audible? Audible ആണ് ma'am?
Yes,
Aതെ.
yes, it's audible. Audible.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good
Yes.
evening.
Good evening. Good
Good
evening.
evening, Unnikrishnan sir.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Rajashree, Dr. Rajashree. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Madam, I think
Yes, good evening. I'm here.
can we start? Madam,
Okay, sir.
madam,
Be the change that you.
Okay, sir. Okay, we can start.
Yeah.
Ma'am, start your time. I think it's audible.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
We
it's
can
audible.
start.
Audible. Please
Yeah.
start. Please start.
Anita. Anita.
Excuse me.
Sir, please hold on for a minute.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
We are having a little bit of technical issue.
If that is connected to me, I have no problem.
Madam, hello.
രാജശ്രീ എന്തോ ഒരു ടെക്നിക്കൽ പ്രോബ്ലം ആണ്. ഇപ്പൊ
Yeah.
സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം.
എല്ലാവർക്കും കേൾക്കാലോ?
ആ
ബാക്കി
കേക്കാം ഓഡിബിൾ അതെ.
സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാലോ? കുഴപ്പമില്ല.
അല്ല
അതെ, ഒരു ചെറിയ ടെക്നിക്കൽ പ്രോബ്ലം. ജസ്റ്റ് എ മിനിറ്റ്.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Audible. Please.
That is to work. I hope all of you know from whom this quote is. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that today is October 2nd, a significant day as we observe Gandhi Jayanti. Mahatma Gandhi, the symbol of peace and knowledge, continues to inspire us with his ideals and teachings. As we engage in our discussions today, let's keep his legacy in mind, especially his commitment of truth, justice, and harmony. Thank you for joining us, and let's move forward with our webinar. Research is the backbone of innovation, driving progress across various fields, especially in pharmacy and healthcare. It enables us to
Jenny, we can start with the prayer.
Yes. Good evening to all. Since we are having some technical issue, we highly regret the technical issue and for your patient waiting. May we begin this webinar with a prayer. May I request Ms. Adira for the prayer song.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Hello.
നന്മയാകുന്ന
കുഴപ്പമില്ല ഈ നോക്ക് ഇപ്പം പ്രയർ തുടങ്ങി.
നല്ല വാക്കിന്റെ ശീലു ചൊല്ലുവാൻ നാവിനാകേണമേ സ്നേഹമാകുന്ന ഗീതമോ എൻ്റെ കാതിനിണയാകണേ സത്യമെന്നുള്ള ശീലമോടെന്നെ ശാന്തി അറിയണമേ ആ ഭൂമി അമ്മയെന്നറിയുവാനുള്ള ബോധമുണ്ടാക്കണേ ജീവജാലങ്ങളാകെയും ജന്മബന്ധുവായിടണേ ജാതിഭേദങ്ങളെന്നും മനസ്സിലെഴുതേണമേ ആ
Thank you, Adira. We are greatly honored to have with us today Dr. Rajashree R.S., Dean, Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Kerala University of Health Sciences, and Professor and HOD, College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, TD Medical College, Alappuzha. She, in spite of her busy schedule, Madam readily agreed to be with us today and give us the presidential address. Over to you, Madam, for the presidential address.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, faculty, students, fellow colleagues, members of Kerala Pharmacy Graduates Association, it is a great honor and privilege for me to address you all today on this auspicious occasion. We are here to address a crucial topic of proposals for research funding, major hurdles we are facing and the way forwarded, organized by Kerala Pharmacy Graduates Association and conducted by Dr. M.K. Krishnan, an eminent person to talk about this topic. You all know, research is the process which fuels innovation, drives economic growth, and improves the quality of life. And this medical and pharmaceutical research is important as it is directly linked with the healthcare of our society. But the pursuit of research is often faced with challenges, particularly when it comes to securing adequate funding. And most often, the researchers face multifaceted hurdles like limited funding, ability as competition for grants is intense and demand is more. And the application process is often very complex and time consuming. And often there is inefficient support for young researchers in securing funding. I hope that this webinar may provide insight to different opportunities and to overcome these hurdles. By collaborating together, we can create a more supportive environment for the researchers, and this will contribute to the benefit of the society. And Dr. Unnikrishnan is an apt person who has immense knowledge and experience in this area, will guide you and will guide us how to overcome the difficulties faced by young researchers. And I congratulate Kerala Pharmacy Graduates Association and all the senior members, the officials or senior officials of the PGA for selecting this topic and selecting a person who is very knowledgeable, and he will guide us to procure fund or to overcome the difficulty of getting fund for the research work. Thank you so much for inviting me as a president of this function, and without any further delay, we can start with the topic as it is more important. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam, for your valuable motivational words. Madam is always an ardent supporter of KPGA Women's Wing. Next, we move on. We are graced today by the presence of Dr. K. Radha, Professor, College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Government Medical College, Kottayam. Madam is here to felicitate the gathering. May I ask you, Madam, for a few words?
Thank you, Kala Madam. Very good evening to everybody. Respected Dr. M.K. Unnikrishnan sir, esteemed members of KPGA, and dear participants. It's an honor to felicitate Dr. M.K. Unnikrishnan sir, who has graciously accepted to lead today's webinar on the crucial and very relevant topic, proposals for research funding, major hurdles and the way forward. Dr. Unnikrishnan, with over 33 years of distinguished teaching and research experience at Manipal College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and his role as an adjunct faculty at Amrita School of Pharmacy, Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham, brings invaluable insights into this topic. His deep expertise in the field of pharmaceutical sciences makes him the ideal resource person for navigating the complex world of research funding. Securing funding is one of the biggest challenges faced by researchers today. This webinar has been organized by KPGA as part of its ongoing mission to support and empower researchers and academicians. By facilitating discussions on critical issues like research funding, KPGA is playing a key role in equipping professionals with the tools and knowledge needed to overcome the challenges in securing financial support for the research. The association's commitment to promoting growth and innovation in our field is evident in initiatives like this. On behalf of KPGA and all attendees, I sincerely thank and extend my felicitations to Dr. M.K. Unnikrishnan sir, who shall be sharing his expertise with us. And also I thank KPGA for organizing this enriching event. Thank you once again. Let's have a great enriching day today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam, for your encouraging words. We are happy to have with us Ms. Veena Rajesh, Senior Pharmacist, Dubai Duty Free, Dubai International Airport. Madam is always an ardent supporter of KPGA Women's Wing and supports us in most of our charity endeavors. May I ask you, Madam, for a few words?
Please tell me. Good evening, everyone. Respected Dr. M.K. Unnikrishnan sir, Dr. Rajeshri Madam, Dr. Sapna Sri Kumar, Dr. K. Radha, Mrs. Nagalakshmi R., esteemed speakers, dignitaries, colleagues, and participants, a warm and heartfelt welcome to you all. Let me introduce myself. I am Veena Rajesh, Senior Pharmacist at Dubai Duty Free in Dubai International Airport. It's an honor to welcome you all to this important webinar on proposals for research funding, major hurdles and the way forward, organized by the Kerala Pharmacy Graduates Association. I would now like to extend a special and warm welcome to our esteemed Dr. M.K. Unnikrishnan sir, former professor at Manipal College of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Dr. Unnikrishnan is a highly respected figure in our field with decades of experience and a deep understanding of the challenges we face in securing research funding. Sir, we are truly honored to have you with us today, and we look forward to your insightful perspectives on navigating these complex hurdles. Next, it is my privilege to welcome Dr. Rajeshri R.S., Dean of the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences at KUHS and Professor and Head at CPS TDMC Alapura. Dr. Rajeshri has been a beacon of inspiration and leadership in the academic and pharmaceutical world, and her guidance continues to shape the future of pharmacy education and research. We are incredibly grateful to have you here, ma'am. I also extend a warm welcome to Dr. Sapna Sri Kumar, Professor and Head of Pharmacognosy at Nehru College of Pharmacy, Thrissur, who will chair and moderate today's session. We deeply appreciate your role in guiding us through today's discussions. A heartfelt welcome as well to Dr. K. Radha, Professor at Government Medical College, Kottayam, who will be felicitating today's event, and Mrs. Nagalakshmi R., who will deliver the vote of thanks. I would also like to acknowledge Adira R.S., a tutor at Pharmatalk Academy, for leading us in prayer today, and Ms. Anita, Assistant Professor at Sri Gokulam SNGM College of Pharmacy, Thiruvur, for her role as the Master of Ceremony. Your contributions are invaluable to this gathering. We warmly welcome Dr. Sri Kumar, President KPGA, and Sri Abdul Nasir, General Secretary, Dr. Kala, Dr. Jenny, for their leadership and commitment to advancing pharmacy education and research. Your efforts in organizing this insightful event are greatly appreciated. Lastly, I would like to warmly welcome all the participants, scholars, and professionals joining us today. Your presence adds immense value to this session, and we look forward to your active engagement throughout the event. With that, I invite you all to prepare for a thought-provoking and enriching session ahead. Thank you once again and welcome.
Thank you, madam, for those warm words. Without further delay, let us move on to our session, for which I would like to welcome Dr. Sapna Sri Kumar, Dean Research and Placement, Nehru College of Pharmacy, and Professor and HOD, Department of Pharmacognosy, Nehru College of Pharmacy. May I invite you, madam, to chair today's session. Over to you, madam.
Very good evening. Am I audible? Am I
Yes,
audible?
ma'am.
Yes.
Audible.
Thank you. Very good evening, esteemed colleagues and members of the Kerala Pharmacy Graduate Association. Warm welcome to Dr. Rajeshri R.S., the Dean of Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, KUHAS, our great resource person, Dr. M.K. Unnikrishnan sir, and all other eminent members of KPGA. I'm Dr. Sapna Sri Kumar, and it is my privilege to welcome you all to this crucial section on proposals for research funding, major hurdles, and the way forward. In this ever-evolving landscape of pharmaceutical sciences and healthcare, research funding stands as the lifeblood of innovations and progress. However, securing this funding is often a daunting challenge for many researchers face. The ability to craft compelling research proposals and to navigate the complex funding ecosystem is becoming increasingly critical. Many of us have experienced firsthand the hurdles in this process, from intense competition for limited resources to the intricacies of proposal writing and the need to align our research with funding priorities. Due to these challenges, we often seem very overwhelming and groundbreaking ideas are not reaching the laboratories. In today's session, the aim is to address these pressing issues head-on. We'll explore not only the major hurdles in securing research funding, but also practical, actionable strategies to overcome them. Kerala Pharmacy Graduate Association brings to you a very relevant topic to our collective mission of advancing pharmacy education and research in our region. To guide us through this critical topic, We are fortunate to have with us a distinguished expert who has not only navigated these challenges successfully, but has also mentored numerous others in doing so. It is my honor to introduce our esteemed resource person, Dr. M.K. Unnikrishnan, who is currently serving as adjunct faculty at the Amrita School of Pharmacy, Amrita Vishwavidyapeeth, Kochi. Dr. Unnikrishnan's academic journey is nothing short of inspiring. He completed his B.Pharm from the prestigious BITS Pilani in the year 1978, followed by PhD from Mangalore University in 1997. His career spans over 4 decades, during which he has become a respected authority in pharmacotherapeutics, pharmacology, and drug discovery. A testament to his expertise and dedication, Dr. Unnikrishnan has guided 13 PhD students and authored or co-authored 150 peer-reviewed articles. His research has made significant impacts in the field, and it is evident by his impressive citation metrics, a Scopus H-index of 30 and a Google Scholar H-index of 41. What sets Dr. Unnikrishnan apart is the breadth of his expertise. His multidisciplinary research interests span drug discovery, pharmacology, evolutionary medicine, cognition, public health, and education. Dr. Unnikrishnan's influence extends far beyond our boundaries. His collaborations with world-renowned institutions such as Boston University School of Public Health, Baker IDI Heart and Diabetic Institute in Melbourne, and the University of Wyoming has resulted in highly cited publications. His contributions to the field have not only gone unnoticed. Dr. Unnikrishnan has received numerous prestigious awards, including the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory Fellowship from USA, the Dr. T.M.A. Pai Endowment Chair Award, and the STARS Award for Excellence in Academic Research. These accolades speak volumes about the quality and significance of his work. Beyond his academic pursuits, Dr. Unnikrishnan has been a voice for change in healthcare. His publications in journals like the Economic and Political Weekly and Health Policy and Planning have addressed contemporary socio-political issues in Indian healthcare, demonstrating his commitment to bridging the gap between research and real-world impact. For his wealth of experience, multifaceted expertise, and proven track record in securing and managing research funding, Dr. Unnikrishnan is uniquely qualified to guide us through these complexities. Dr. Unnikrishnan, sir, we are eager to learn from your expertise. The floor is yours, and we look forward to gaining valuable insights from your presentation that will undoubtedly shape our approach to research funding in the future. Thank you very much, sir. The session is handed over to you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for that very magnanimous introduction, very extravagant and probably a little exaggerated. Thank you anyway, and let me have the slides instead of my face, which speak more than. I think you can take my face away and put the slides and put it in the slide view mode so that I can read it. Yeah. Now, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you. And being retired for 7 years, it's very precious for me. Such opportunities don't come often. I'm glad you think I am appropriate. I'm 7 years outdated in a certain way, but I still think I have a certain idea about what goes on and what is supposed to be going on. Now, let me go to the next slide, please. The next slide has the title slide. Before that, let us salute the Mahatma on his birthday, which is very important to all of us. And the next slide, please. Yes, this is about the topic and the organizers. I thank the organizers for it, for all that work they have done, and also for putting up this good representation. I also thank a lot of people who persuaded me, Dr. Shirley, Dr. Subhash, and some others. Dr. Akash was there, Dr. Kala. These people have all been persuading me to get back into this. I hope I'm audible and clear. Is that okay? Please tell me. Okay, if it goes bad, tell me. Okay. Now I'll get down to the top. Yeah, okay. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now, I just want you to understand that research is not going to happen overnight. Research is a very, very slow and steady progress. You don't acquire the skills overnight. And you cannot write a project unless you're familiar with the background of it. And it's only then you can write a project that people will read. Remember, making a project, preparing a draft is so tough that it takes a few months minimum to prepare the first draft. And many more such drafts have to go through many hands if it has to finalize into a reasonably good one. I've had a lot of difficulties. And remember, don't try this alone in the beginning, unless, of course, you're singularly suited for it. The average person must take support. I have done that. And take support from a person who's already reputed, because you can lean onto his or her name and make things happen. Because if you say that you're working with an important person, the project is likely to be seriously considered. Otherwise, they'll put you as a novice and they don't really understand how much you can really contribute. So these are all issues. And you have to define the problem and its context very precisely, for which you have to do a lot of reading. You also have to define the approach to the solution, and in a very precise manner, which is also not so simple, considering the complexity of life sciences and its multidisciplinary approaches that are currently actually increasing. Next slide, please. Now, I have actually considered the first thing is define the problem. So in order to define the problem, I said you have to define the problem clearly and its context, right? So first is define the problem. So you have to discuss the context and background of the problem. Illustrate your competence in this area. Very, very important. How do you illustrate competence? By showing that you have papers in the same field. If you cannot do that, nobody's going to look at your project. You may have done good things. Define it, but it's not published, no point. And unless you publish, and publish quite abundantly and frequently, you are not likely to be noticed by the people who evaluate your product. You have to define the broad aims and define its precise objectives. Now, what are the meaning difference between aim and objective is that aim is the final purpose. I want to make a drug. That's the aim. Drug for what? For, say, diabetes. Then the objectives will be a little more fine-tuned and specific. So the aims are broad and objectives are precise. All this can happen only if you have a very good background in the situation that you're exploring. Next slide, please. Now, the difference between aims and objectives is fairly clear to you, I am sure. The aim is the final purpose. As I told you, a new drug for diabetes from a plant with a similar claim in Ayurveda. That's a reasonable proposal, let's say. Now, the objectives will be split into the components like preparing the extract of the plant. Of course, it goes beyond that. You have to collect the plant. You have to macerate all those things, prepare the extract, to fractionate it into components, to study its effect in lowering blood glucose in, let's say, STZ treated rats, or say genetically modified rats, or mice, or whatever, rabbits, or whatever. So you have to precisely define the components that make up the aim of the topic. So next one, after defining the aims and objectives, what you have to do is, next slide, please. You will have to convince the funding agency of your background. Next slide. You have to convince the funding agency of your background, experience, and expertise. How will you convince? The only way is to write a very impressive beginning. The introduction itself must be very compelling. It should be readable. It should be good language. It should be brief. Above all, brief. Be brief. If you write long paragraphs, nobody reads. Nobody has time to read. You know, these, I have evaluated funding projects some time long back. And I have found that the people who are good, they are very brief. So being able to say something briefly also reflects on your ability to understand the topic and explain it properly. So be brief, learn to write by writing. You cannot learn swimming without getting into the pool. In the same way, you cannot learn writing without actually attempting to write. And not 1 or 2 pages, thousands of pages. You have to, if you want success, you have to at least write 1,000 words a day. It's not easy, I know. Nothing is easy. Remember, research is not a priority area for people who want to relax. I don't think you should aim for research and such things unless you're serious about it. These are topics which fascinate very few people. That's why there are few researchers. There are many more businessmen. There are many more politicians, but researchers are very few. And serious researchers are much fewer. And how will you convince the agency? You have to quote preliminary work done by yourself and others. And you have to tell that the project is feasible. You have to explain its level of difficulty. You have to speak about its relevance. Is it relevant? Is this medicine from Ayurvedic principles, is it going to be useful? Is it going to be prescribed? Is it going to be helpful? Does it have fewer side effects? Every aspect of that new product that you're trying to introduce should be discussed in great detail. And in the process of doing this, you must quote your own papers and the own work you have done with others. Your own papers will reflect your ability, your competence, and the applicant will be seriously considered only if there is enough competence. Remember, they are sending crores of money to people. They want results because the funding agencies are asked to report their outcomes at the end to the government or the funding person. It might be a private fund. If it's Ambani giving you the money, Ambani will ask, what happened to this money? If it's government giving you the money, the government secretaries will ask you, what happened to this money? So the people who send the money to you are responsible for the proper utilization of that fund. So you have to show that you are good enough with that fund. You can be trusted with that money. You will not buy a scooter with that. You will not run away with that. So that's also the reason why funding is rarely given to people who are going to retire, because they may not stay on. These are the problems I faced towards the end of when I really became competent, I lost my my ability to win funds. It has hurt me quite a lot towards the end of my career. Quoting previous published work is very convincing proof of competence. Publish work from your own authorship or co-authorship. That's important. If you have papers on the same field, the people who read your proposal will be convinced, oh, this man has done something. I can trust him or her. Otherwise, the money might be lost. So see that some preliminary work is done before you make an application. Suppose you want to do some work on a certain plan, see that you have done something with that plan. Some paper must be there in your name, or at least you should be a co-author in a name, in a paper in which somebody else is the principal author. Next slide, please. So you have to then define the objectives. Now the objectives, I told you, are aim split into pieces, okay? Now you have to break the aim into its components. This requires skill and experience. It's not something that happens overnight. I suggest all of you, please team up with somebody. You can come to me if you like. Okay, I am always open. You have to come to me when I am free. You can come even to my home, okay, with your proposal. When I am there, that is. Come with your material. I can even vet the material and probably give you suggestions. I'm not exaggerating. I enjoy this work, and that's the reason I have remained a researcher for so many years, and I've not got tired of it. So the objectives that you define should be relevant. It should be feasible. It should be measurable and achievable and time bound. So relevant, feasible, measurable, achievable, and time bound. If it takes 10 years, nobody's going to give you the money, however great your objectives are. And if it's not relevant to the country will not spend money on it. So if you send a proposal on cholera to USA, FDA, NIH, they're not likely to fund it because cholera is very rare in US. Whereas cholera in India might be a little, now it's not so common. But now if you must say something that is relevant and useful to the country. The research must provide something that helps the world. That's the first principle. You should be original. Don't copy, don't try to plagiarize. You should be innovative and it should be significant. And it should be supported by published literature. You cannot offer something which is not likely to be in published. You cannot use that as a reason for arguing in your proposal. Suppose you have evidence that should be published literature, not somebody spoke to you about it and all that. It's not going to work. And it should be a priority segment. And the government offers a lot of priority segments for higher funding, So suppose there's a burning problem in India. See, COVID was a burning problem. Now Nipah might be a burning problem. So a burning problem will win more attention. Diabetes is a burning problem. Okay, kidney failure is a burning problem because diabetes is very common. Heart is another problem. Cancer is another problem. Obesity is a very important problem. It's not so important in India, but it's going to become very important very soon. So you have to look at problems which are relevant, which are feasible, which are measurable. That is, measurable means at the end of the project, you must say, I have got this. I have got this medicine which has reduced blood pressure from 180 mm to 120. Something like that. You should have a number because all publications require numbers. Science is all but measurement. So if you cannot measure, you are not likely to succeed. Next slide, please. That is the methods. Now the methods are very specific to the tasks that you wish to undertake. And you generally use the methods which others have used. You're not going to make diabetic rats with your own method. Nobody's going to believe you first. You can do that. If you're in a top lab, if you're already full of experience, if you have a big research team, if you're an influential person, you can probably design a new method. Otherwise, the new method itself becomes a research project. So I want you to understand that methods must be borrowed, at least in the beginning. You may innovate, you may change, you may modify. you may modify in a reasonable way. You understand? So for methods, ideally choose a good journal written from a good institution, published by a convincing author. Take the procedures they have followed. Invariably, you're trying to do things which have been done before. You're not going to do something in which there is no method yet available. You're not likely to be in such cutting edge areas where methods themselves have to be invented. If that's the level of your research, this topic is absolutely irrelevant to you. You stand at a much higher level. So there's no need to talk about that. Ideally, methods must be copied from good standard journals. But it should not be in conflict with accepted norms and rule of law and patient rights and animal welfare. You cannot design a method, you cannot modify a method which will conflict into any of these. Okay? And I'm coming to those conflicts. More of them will come. Next slide, please. Action plan. You should have an action plan. I don't know whether you have understood what an action plan is. An action plan must have the components of time, milestones. That is, every month or every year, what you do every 6 months. Ideally, you should have a half-yearly report submitted, and you should meet the milestones. You'll say, I will prepare the extract in the first 6 months, or I'll prepare I'll collect the samples, that is the plant samples, in the first 3 months. Prepare the extract in 6 months. Then fractionate the extract into its components in the next 6 months. Then inject the products into the animals in the next month. Then review the results and publish. So all these must come into your proposal. It should be feasible. You should give a method which you can execute in your own lab. If you're not in a very important place, if you're not in a good lab, if you don't have the facilities, nobody is going to trust you. So they'll think the money is going to be thrown away. You're not going to use it because this method is, you don't have an HPLC and you have quoted an HPLC procedure. Then you'll have to depend on somebody else. You can say, I'm going to somebody else and do this. I'm going to do this in the university. My college does not have that. Good, that's okay. Many people encourage such cross-institutional collaborations, but you have to convince them. Is that okay? And it should be feasible, as I said, and measurable. And periodic reviews, like half-yearly reports, are absolutely necessary grants to continue. Next slide, please. Yeah, the requirements must, requirements. Yeah, they should be based on need and not fancy, and avoid replicating equipment already available. Suppose you have an HPTLC in your lab, in your institution. Don't write for another HPTLC. Now there are methods to identify such replication. Many people do that because that is his HPLC. He never allows me to come into his lab. This kind of problems are there in Indian labs. I know Indian labs abroad, all sorts of labs have this problem where people they cling to their material and don't share them. It's true, but you cannot generally get another equipment if it's already there. That's why you're supposed to submit a list of equipment already available in your institution. So if already 7 HPLCs are there and you're asking for the 8th one, you're not likely to get it unless you're a very big man. And the agency is convinced that this man is very busy. He may not be able to go to another lab and do his work. Wonderful. Let him get one. Now, budget is usually never enough. Always budget is something. You never have enough money, And that's the nature of money. If you have 1 lakh, you need 2. If you get 2 lakhs, it's more. So you have to improvise and innovate, make ends meet. So there's a lot of frugal innovation that is typically Indian, In fact, I remember when I was doing my PhD, we had designed a gradient elution system with glassware, in our own lab. We had fabricated that. So that was possible because my guru also, my teacher also was very encouraging. He allowed me to do that. So it is possible to improvise, innovate, make new equipment, etc. But then these things are not easy. It requires a lot of investment in time, energy, patience, etc. Next slide, please. Budgeting. This is the crucial step. As I told you, there's never enough money. You need equipment, you need to pay the salaries to the JRF. Remember one thing. I hope when you submit research projects, you give provision to employ research scholars, JRF, SRF. They get good salary, these days. And you need consumables. Don't put petrol in that. Consumables such as, ether, petroleum ether and things like that. It's not for your moving around. That's not a consumable. Travel you need. What? Not for a tour trip to some fun trip or something, but for conference presentations. It's legitimate. You are eligible for travel grant because generally research improves when you meet your colleagues elsewhere in a conference. So generally there's a lot of encouragement to that. Contingencies, that is day to day. You want to post something, you want to register, you want to Xerox something. So these things are generally, there is some provision, but don't make it too big. Overheads. Overheads. I want to talk something about overheads. I don't know about your institution, but please check with your institution. Generally, the institution charges a person of your budget as overheads because they are supplying electricity to you, they are giving you the space, they're giving you the furniture, they're giving you paper, pencil, pen, they're also giving you salary, remember. And that salary, part of it is not spent for the institution, but for the research, which may provide nothing at all. It might be a big flop. So the institution has the right to claim some money from the fund. This is called overheads. Some institutions charge very high overheads. If you go abroad, say big universities, they charge 30% overheads. I remember submitting a grant with a foreign collaborator. He had charged enormous overheads and I charged very minimum. So I was surprised by the difference. And we didn't get that grant because of this guy's greed, I suppose. I don't know. But then it was a very good grant, I remember, but we didn't get it. Anyway, so remember, you have to balance. So the best way to do all this, you can't do this alone in the beginning. Please understand, those ambitious researchers among you must understand this is not an individual task which you can achieve overnight. Okay? You need to be in the environment. You need to have colleagues, you need to have friends, you need to have time, you need to have energy, you need to have perseverance. I'm going to come to all that much later. Okay, so please remember these things and make appropriate decisions. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now, there are some important considerations when you prepare a project. Remember, if you're having a clinical sample, let's say, involving human subjects, you have to satisfy the ethical guidelines by ICMR. There's also an institutional review board. Your own institution will have an ethical committee. You have to satisfy them. There are many review procedures you have to follow. So before choosing the topic, identify. Even if it's animals, you need CPCA, CA guidelines, etc. Ethical review is also necessary. If your research involves children, you have to be very, very careful. Scandals are likely. There are many people who are, a lot of whistleblowers going around and they even make false accusations sometimes. Extortion, etc. has been reported. People come and extort money from you for, not saying things. So there's a lot of delicate problems that you will face if you are, this is particularly big when you are involving human subjects, women, children, animals, etc. Materials also there are considerations. Do you have a safety? Suppose you are having microbes. Do you have a biosafety level A, etc. Level 3 or whatever, I don't remember those numbers. So the biosafety levels, the kind of safety requirements that accompany testing of microbials, etc., has to be satisfied. So you check before you write the project, you have to make a good survey of all the equipment, methods, everything in your lab. Next slide, please. Now, the next slide talks about, continued, yeah, that's right. Purchases in foreign currency. Suppose you want to buy something from abroad. Suppose you don't have the stuff inside India. You may have to get that compound from outside. You may require sanctions. Prior sanctions are required. And if you purchase in dollars, and these rules keep changing. Okay, don't quote me. I don't know about the rules now, right now. You must be in touch with somebody who has applied. Okay, otherwise what happens, you may have all the projects perfectly feasible, everything, but finally you can't get your stuff from abroad. Restrictions while receiving foreign funds. Very, very important. Now it's very delicate. You will have to go through the government when you receive funds. I still remember when I was in Kozhikode, I think, we had a fund from, research fund from Australia. And I think Akash knows more about it. I don't know. Finally, we got it, but it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time. We had to, wait and wait. We had sent some compounds from here by courier. And when we sent the compounds by courier, remember, we are sending it from a small institution, Kozhikode. We got an international grant. Why did we get it? The reason we got it is because I had some experience in Manipal, and it's based on that experience. They trusted me. And I had a colleague in Baker IDI. She was my student. She supported it. Then we got in touch with one lady there, Judy Han. So she helped us. She was convinced that we have something to offer. So it is possible sometimes in a very small institution, but then you have to prepare for it. It doesn't happen overnight. My getting that grant was the result of many decades of work, which you will not see when the grant comes. Okay, so there are many big restrictions while receiving funds. And when you collaborate with foreign labs, there is a lot of restriction in shipping tissue samples. You cannot send tissue samples, blood, etc. abroad. There are a lot of, it's very, very tough. In fact, IPR related issues. I remember we had a collaboration with the University of Southern Queensland in Australia. And my God, the IPR, the lawyers took such a long time to finalize it. And I remember India is quite free with IPR. We don't have good regulations, etc. So it was much easier from India. And from there, we had to wait and wait and wait. One lawyer, then another lawyer, then this advisor to the lawyer, and so on. So these things keep happening. So depending on the kind of proposal you write, you need multiple skills. So that's the reason I am telling you, please don't do it alone in the beginning. Follow somebody. Team up with somebody. Get a guru, and there will be a lot of difference. Next one, please. Yeah. And when you submit the grant, you have to submit a lot of, other than the grant, a lot of details to be submitted along with that. A lot of annexures like ethical committee approval, list of equipment available, the CV of all the investigators. They might provide the format. You cannot write everything that you want. You may be the panchayat president, but that may not be relevant for the research project. So write what is relevant, okay? And previous ongoing grants received by the investigators will be carefully watched. Suppose you have submitted a grant, they'll ask, has this fellow taken money from us previously? ICMR will go through all the files. Oh, this fellow has taken some money. Has he wound up the projects for which money was already granted? He has not. Okay, then wait, let him wait. Has he sent audited statements of all the expenditure? He has not. Let it go. So your good project might get held up if you have previous proposals tied up in your lab. That's the reason I'm telling you research funding is an extremely complex, very I have lost patience very often with this. It takes more time than the research itself. The research grant writing, the research grant submission, waiting, going to Delhi, listening to those people abuse you, make fun of you for little mistakes. Now, all this has happened. I've gone through. Okay, next slide. Now, hello, I can hear some voice. Is somebody talking to me?
No, sir, it was a participant.
Okay. Now, the review criteria, I have attended, when I was in an Indian Institute of Science, I was lucky to attend an NIH presentation. I don't know whether you know about NIH. NIH is one of the biggest, National Institute of Health, USA is one of the biggest funding bodies in the world. They have so much of money and they give a lot of money if you're good. And you get money for crazy ideas also. If you're truly competent and if you've proven your past. So the NIH looks at things, significance, approach, innovation, investigator, environment. Remember, environment. Where are you? Are you in a good for nothing college? You have very little chance. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to brand colleges into good for nothing. I'm talking about that's how they will look at it. Oh, this college, I've never heard of it. Get out. That's thrown away. Investigator, who's this guy? Just check Google Scholar. He's got only 5 publications. No. And none of the publications are relevant to the topic that he has submitted. Sorry, let him go. So what I'm trying to say is that even a good proposal, which is significant with a good approach and offers a lot of innovative solutions, may lose if you are not competent and if you're not from the right environment. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, the next few slides, I'm going to revise this and make a brief follow-up of what I already said. The substance is already delivered, but I'll put it in a more interesting way. Now, remember one thing. The funding chase, there's a very big problem behind it. You judge yourself by what you can do, what you think you can do. Others judge you by what you have done already. You think that you're good, you can publish 10 papers, there's something, but others will look at how many have you already published. So if you don't have papers, people are not likely to trust you. Although you may be very competent, you may be very good, very interesting person. Okay, next slide, please. Now, I am going to slightly digress by whatever I spoke of. I have converted that into a small table of P's. You've all heard of the P53, the guardian of the genome. Now, there are 53 P's in this list, which you should remember. And that will give you an idea, a quick way to remember what competences you need to make a good proposal. Now, there are 3 variables and 1 constant in this formula. The proposer, who is doing the work? Proposal, what is going to be done? The place, where is it carrying out? It will be successful only if the proposer competence plus merit of the project plus the reputation of the place is greater than the provider's expectation. Okay, please understand that. The provider, the bigger he is, greater the expectation. Greater the money granted to you, bigger the expectation. The competence, merit, and reputation. If you're not working in a good place meaning a reputed place, I'm not saying good and bad, but reputed and not reputed, you are not likely to be taken seriously. That's the reason why you team up with somebody in a good institution. This is a very important thing that I'm trying to propose to you. That's the biggest proposal that I could make to make you successful. Next one, please. Next one. Yeah. Now there are many. The proposal is the first part, right? How many P's? There are 10 P's, I think. 10 parameters which are measurable with respect to the proposal. and there are about 12 immeasurable parameters. What are measurable parameters? Past performance. You can measure it to some extent. Degrees, papers, etc. Publication history. Has he been publishing of late? Very important. Publishing. He has published 39 papers in 2015. But after that, he has never done anything. Then forget it. He's gone. Papers and patents. The number of papers, number of patents will both be checked. Partners. Has he got publications with collaborators from, let's say, Cambridge University? Oh, he must be good. Indian Institute of Science, he must be good. If he's got from a small Chota college, oh, this guy, can't trust him. Proficiency. Is he a big man? Like, has he got a lot of degrees and all that? Is he a gold medalist or something? Has he won any awards? Prizes, awards. Is he a PhD? Very important. I'm very sorry to tell you, PhD really doesn't mean much, except that you go through the ritual of research. But I am very sorry, when you write a proposal and send, if you're not a PhD, I'm sorry. They're not likely to take you seriously. You know, Julius Axelrod, there are exceptions. Julius Axelrod had no PhD when he made paracetamol. In fact, he had to work for a PhD after he got a Nobel Prize, if I'm not mistaken. The position is important. If you're an HOD or something, you have a better chance. You know why? Because the agency will trust the HOD better. He has got some control. He will at least be able to get some distilled water for the equipment. You know, things like that. And privileged groups are given a lot of preference. Women. I'm given to understand this is a women's program. And I just went through the list, and there are about 80% are women in this, among the 100 participants I counted. So I think they should all look for, and remember, women who have had a career break because of childbirth, you know, and they have got a lot of concessions they can apply. And a lot of funds are kept aside for women. And young people have more chances. Old people, it's all outdated stuff. So remember, I want you to do one thing. Now, past performance, publication history, papers and patents, partners, proficiency, prizes, PhD, position. You write all these points down on a piece of paper and mark your level of merit in this. Past performance. Give a score 5 to 1. Okay. 5 for the best performance. Your own assessment. I'm not asking you to assess somebody else. You give your own assessment. What I'm trying to tell you is, I want you to come with a score at the end of the lecture, which will give you an idea whether you can really work forward on this. Where do you stand? You should know where you stand. So give a score 5 to 1 in all these. Now, there are a lot of immeasurable parameters. There's no measure for it, but they're very important. Personality. It should be pleasing. Not a gruff and irritating chap. They're not likely to win partners. Partnering ability is very important. And partnering ability is not just smiling and wishing each other. No. Also communicate. Persuasiveness. Some people are very persuasive. Politicians are very persuasive. They tell you that they are always right. And they achieve it. Passion. I'm sorry, there's no medicine for injecting passion into you. Passion comes quite naturally. And it comes to some people, not to all people. I cannot expect everybody to be passionate about gymnastics. I am not. Cricket, I am not. Some people are. So it's quite a personality trait. And if you're not having the passion, you should not give credit for yourself. So again, give credit to all this. Perseverance. Are you perseverant? If you fail once and if you're given up, sorry, there's very little chance of success. You fail twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times. You are still sometimes unsuccessful. Doesn't matter. You should keep trying. Promptness. Are you prompt with the review? Suppose some paper comes. Are you responding immediately? Perspiration. I'm talking perspiration. I used a metaphor to say how hardworking are you. Perspiration means sweat, of course. So how much are you willing to sweat? Then communication. Are you able to personally communicate with people on an individual basis? Are you PC savvy? Do you use the computer properly? Are you good with paperwork? All these are important. Preparation. Preparation is a very long story. Preparation comes with years of work, not an overnight. So please, again, I want you to give marks to all these P's, these 12 P's, I think, 5-1. Now, add up the score of each individual under measurable and immeasurable, add both and see where you stand. Okay? It's about out of 200, you'll know where you stand. This is for yourself. It's a self-test. And it is just to make you understand where you stand with respect to yourself. Next slide, please. Now, I finished the project, proposal. Next is the project. The project must have conceptual merits, like it should be purposeful, it should be priority, it should be practical, it should be present day, that is contemporary work. Pressing, pertinent, it should be based on previous work, experience I told you. Proof of concept and competence. This is very important. How do you give proof of concept? With a pilot study, with a paper which you have published. So that's how you give conceptual merits to the proposal that you're writing. It should be path-breaking preferably, but it's not very easy. Path-breaking work is reserved for the top universities, top performers, top researchers. Not all of us can be path-breaking. Nobel Prize is issued only once a year, and to 1 or 2% or 3% maximum. So path-breaking work is rare. Let us not attempt path-breaking work in the beginning. Let's work our way up towards path-breaking work. Next slide, please. The project body must have the following P's: the preamble, the procedures, the paraphernalia, that means equipment, the program, the period of work, how long you want to work, the PERT chart, that is a program evaluation review technique. It's a chart that projects your time budget. Then the budget must be prudent. Don't ask for a lavish budget. The chances you won't get anything. Personal. Remember to ask for personal. That is people who are going to work with you. JRF, SRF. Many of my projects have succeeded only because of my students. I was able to choose good students and they were very good to me. I remember them very well. The prose you write, the writing, the P, should be precise, it should be perfect, it should be persuasive. So there are a lot of P's that make up your proposal. And if you don't follow them, and it should always be based on past efforts. Next slide, please. The next slide is something which you have no control on, the place. You have, because you can resign and go elsewhere, but it's not something that's easy and can happen overnight. Where do you work is unfortunately the most important. If an application comes from Harvard University, you believe that it is from a good person. If it comes from a small Chota university in some Dhaka, I'm sorry, not Dhaka is good, let's say Bangladesh or Papua New Guinea, you instantly brush it away as likely to be rubbish. So the name of the place, that's the reason why, you should be tied up with a very important place. Find a collaborator, work for him, slave for him, doesn't matter. You will get in the end. Preeminence, prestige, past performance of the institution, not you. Premises, what are the labs like? What are the personnel? Who are the professors there? How many of them have got awards? How many of them have papers? Who are the partners of this institution? Do they have big partners? What's the publication history of that institution? What's the patent history? I want you to please give score to your own institution against all this. Preeminence, what's the score? What's the past performance? What's the premises? How much score do you give? You add that up. That is the score of your place parameter. Remember, I am splitting your competence into project, proposal, proposer, proposal, and place. Now, proposer you can evaluate. Place you can evaluate. Proposal is different. I cannot evaluate unless I read through the whole thing, and you can never evaluate your own proposal. So let's leave that. So I want you to evaluate your own competence and the place you come from. See the chances of your success from the score. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is what I want you to do. Refer to the variables listed under the proposal, proposer, measurable, immeasurable, and also the place. And if you think this is for yourself, you don't have to transfer to anybody. List the ideas that you develop, that you can develop into a plan proposal. It should be based on your strength, past records, prevailing opportunities, institutional strength. Now, suppose you're working in, say, Kozhikode. Kottakkal is nearby. You can probably use Kottakkal Ayurvedashala as a support base if you know people there. That's why I said partner with them. Next slide, please. There are other grants also. I cannot go into. In fact, I was asked to talk about research grants. I will not talk about it. There is no time as well. And next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, all of you, please remember that people who get grants have spent the most productive hours in reading, on the net, surfing, searching, understanding. Most research adventures begin with establishing contact with strangers. You may not know the person. I never knew Judy D. Han, you know, and Judy D. Han sent me $10,000 or whatever that grant. I forgot the money. Akash will remember probably. Most of the success comes from effective, prompt, polite communication. Can you add one more P there? Polite. I think I missed that out. Promptness, politeness, etc. in communication makes a very, very big impact on your partner. And without partners, I'm very sorry, an average researcher has very little chance. I'm not saying that you're not having a chance. You have, of course, but it's much more difficult. You should have to work so much extra. Next slide, please. Now, people who successfully conduct research abroad, they spend most of their time reading, writing research grants, writing and editing publications, reviewing others' work, PhD. Others' papers come for review, attending academically relevant conferences, not IPA, and participate in the dinner and things like that. IPA, I don't find anything, unless you're focused in one given place, there's absolutely nothing in IPA. I have stopped attending these conferences because of the size. Of course, you can network, but academically relevance, I'm sorry, I don't find them much. Writing, editing, books and journals is a very important task. Delivering orations, chairing sessions, attending academic review meetings. These are the things successful people do in abroad. Please find out how much you do of these. Give a score to yourself and then find out where you need to improve. Next slide, please. Now, remember, they don't spend time on routine lectures. They spend very little part of their time on routine lectures, which we spend a lot of our time. Practicals, viva, signing records, they don't spend that time. Researchers don't generally spend much time there. Departmental meetings, which go on and never end, they don't do that. Valuing mountains of answer scripts, they don't do that. Visiting places as external examiner, they don't do that. Valuation, they don't do that. PCI inspections, rituals, attending pseudo-academic conferences. So please check whether you are wasting time on any of these and try to minimize that. That's also an important thing, which will give you the spare time to attend to the more important things which I discussed in the previous slide. Next slide, please. So focus on meaningful research. We should focus on better knowledge, shift from routine to original, promote a work culture. cultivate an atmosphere of discussion and sharing. Remember, research happens only when you share information. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So I'll sum up. I think I've taken a lot of time. From a knowledge transmitting community, we must become a knowledge creating community. All of us are teachers transmitting knowledge. We are not creating knowledge. This is a big weakness. And research grant is all about encouraging the second thing, that is knowledge creation. And the last slide, I think. Yeah, thank you very much. And I would appreciate your feedback, and I would appreciate if KPGA gets the score, average score from your community, the participants, how much score they have given themselves on themselves, that is the proposer, and the place they work. And it is a measure of what success we can expect when we write a research. And also, I want participants to write down 2 or 3 people they can partner with, potentially partner with, in order to achieve these dreams. Write to them. Write promptly. No, sorry, reply promptly if they ever reply. Please, be patient. If you write to 10, only 1 or 2 might answer. But chase the ones who are active, who are still in the field and working. Is that okay? And well-known from good institutions. That's the best way to ride piggyback. Always ask for a lift. If your vehicle, if you don't have a vehicle, then when you get your vehicle, give others a lift. That's the moral of the story. Thank you very much.
Sapna ma'am, over to you.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
It's a very fruitful session. You have told from the core itself what are all the important points which we have to highlight and how we have to write the proposal effectively. And the things that you have said are very important because the first impression is most important, and then the people who work along with it have to be the ones who will really be there till the end. So I'm sure that everybody has got a picture as to how to begin, how to continue, and what all things to keep in their mind when you're writing the proposal, how to keep it brief, but very important points should be there. It has to be an amalgam of the main points which target upon the goal of the research proposal. So thank you very much, sir. I'm very grateful
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be a part of this meeting, and I'm glad you chose something so important. And I hope, but I'm telling you, I cannot create magic out of one lecture. Nobody can. And you too cannot, unless I told you, research is the last thing in an institution that progresses. That's why the oldest institutions have the best research output. Oldest Indian Institute of Science, 100 years old. You can't do this overnight. A child needs time. ഒരു തെങ്ങ് വെച്ചാൽ 5 കൊല്ലം കഴിയാണ്ട് തേങ്ങ ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. എത്ര നല്ല തെങ്ങ് എത്ര വളമിട്ടാലും. In the same way, research is something that takes time to pick up. You cannot fast forward your research career. Unless, of course, you're a genius. Of course, genius is different. No rules apply to genius. But if you're not a genius, if you're an average person like I am, I have worked very hard. In fact, I don't think I have got 10% of what I worked for. Okay. So I am, I don't think there's much reward in research. You must leave research if you're not serious about it. That's my most important lesson is leave it. There are so many other things you can do, isn't it? There's so many good things you can do. Okay.
Sir,
and, yeah.
That is very humble saying to hear it from a person like you. And it inspires everybody because then everybody knows that, yes, it is possible for everyone to do it. You have to
if you're not ready to fail, you cannot succeed.
Yes.
Easily. So be ready to fail. Face failure. And also cut down on the time you spend on meetings and things like that. One of the biggest hazards of academic life is departmental meetings and such. Avoid them. Decide what is to be done and see if how many have. Communicate through writing. Use emails. Stop using the phone. That's the most important message I tell you for future research. It's very difficult to talk to someone, a good researcher, on phone. When I joined an institution, the first thing I said is, I'm not going to listen to phone calls. And I was successful. Even the management never called me, because I told them, write to me. And they did. They were graceful.
Okay. That's a big thought. It's really true, sir. We waste our time on unwanted
A lot of
things.
time is wasted. I'm very sorry to say this, but I think, and remember one thing, there's a lot of partnering that needs to improve. I don't think we are sharing academic thoughts when we meet, and except in a formal conference, I don't see it happening. Formal conference, it is restricted to the people who contribute. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Please, I want others.
Sir,
Thank you very much.
we can open the session for
Yeah.
questions. So participants, please, you can ask valuable questions to sir. Can utilize the session. Please ask questions.
Another thing I wanted to tell you is that there's a big problem with us asking questions. I have always been disappointed with the lack of questions. Research is all about asking questions. If you cannot ask questions, there's no research, because answers come only when there is a question. And I found this is a singularly important problem in all academic circles here. We don't ask questions. It's not your fault. You've been ruined since school, where you're supposed to quote the answers given by the teachers to the questions asked by the teachers. Nothing is yours. A borrowed answer for a borrowed question. Unless you ask questions on your own, seek answers on your own, I don't think research is going to flourish. Be ready to fail, as I said. I have failed so many times. I took 6 years to do my MPharm. I took 12 years to do my PhD. I say it with pride. I was in the Government College of Pharmacy, Bangalore. I took 6 years to do my MPharm. It was a stupid MPharm. I was too good for it, I think. Anyway, that's not the point. But I mean, this is the way I think, and I want you to understand that it's not an easy something that you listen to a lecture and next day you start writing a research grant. No. I am only just scrape the surface. There's a lot of depth lying in between. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Myself, Deba. I'm working in a self-financing college. My
Yes.
question is, can you suggest some funding agency that we could approach?
Oh, please, 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 please. This is the wrong question from you. You have not, if you know the funding agencies, are you going to get the grant? I told you, research starts with a question. You have asked the wrong question. And funding agencies are there on the net. My point to you is that you have started from the wrong place. You should first have something to do. I told you, partner with people who are already doing research. I'm sorry if I offended you, but this is exactly the way we are trained to think. Unfortunately, our schools have spoiled us. It's not your fault, I know. So it's not because...
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I am Amina Kadar. I'm studying MPharm Pharmacy Practice from Sanjay College of Pharmacy.
Yes.
Sir, is research gap is defining this research gap before selecting a research problem is very important.
No, I mean, I can't follow you. Can you please repeat what you said? You can even speak
Sir,
in Malayalam.
research gap. Is it audible, sir, now?
Yes, of course. No, it's not audible.
Sir, is defining research gap before formulating a research problem is important, sir. And how we can
No, you are
Uh,
asking questions that are difficult to answer over on a webinar like this, that too an online webinar. No,
Fine,
let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you something.
properly
Okay. See, now you can do some very simple research.
the
Okay.
research gap.
Do a survey. All of you can do the survey. Okay. Now I can suggest a topic to you also. Now when I went through the webinar participants, 80% are women. There's a huge gender disparity in the pharmacy profession today, among students, among teachers. Why don't you do a study on the changes over time? That is, see the student. You can go to the website and get it. You can publish a paper with this. These questions are in my mind. I have not had time to do it. If you have the patience, you write to me. I'll help you. You can email me. You understand? You can do a survey on how students perceive examinations. Ask the students, ask the teachers what they think, how we can improve. It becomes a paper. You don't need lab to do a paper. You can do a good review. Don't think a lab is required. Start with publications. Then ideas will come to you. Don't search for ideas from others. Search for ideas from within, with your own experience. I think your orientation is quite different. I told you, we are all brought up in this very primitive, unacademic environment. That's the reason. I don't blame you. Okay, continue. Yeah, I'm talking too much. Yeah.
Any more questions? Any more queries?
I would greatly appreciate if I get the score of participants on that proposer and place. Okay, I had listed that. Oh, the slides are not. I can send it to you later. Yeah. I would greatly appreciate it. Any questions? Anybody?
Okay, so I think everybody has understood the gist of research proposals, how to create and how to go ahead with
I
it,
have
sir.
not understood. I have not understood. Anyway, I can only tell that. Okay, doesn't matter. So anyway, thank you very much. And if there's something more from anybody, this is a very good thing that you have done. And I encourage anybody can contact me, come and meet me. I am in Amrita on some days. Otherwise, I'm at home or something. Write to me, call me, whatever. Calling, I wouldn't really appreciate. Telephones, I generally don't encourage unless I know the person. So I would appreciate, you can send a voice message on WhatsApp if you want. That's okay, but not real-time calls. Okay. So thank you very much. I thank the organizers and I thank you for your time. Yeah. Is there anything else? Yeah.
So I think we can move ahead with the session of the webinar wherein we will be having the vote of thanks. So I call upon the moderator to kindly come forward.
Thank you, Unikrishnan sir, and thank you, Sapna madam, for moderating that session in such an excellent fashion. Unikrishnan sir has always disseminated practical and down-to-earth sessions whenever we have heard him, and it was a really great session. Thank you, sir. It was so nice hearing from you. Thank you, madam, for moderating the session. We would like to share a certificate digitally to our speaker, Dr. M.K. Unikrishnan, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I value this. It's an honor.
and to our chairperson, Sapna Madam.
Thank you very much. A privilege for me to be here. Thanks a lot.
Next, we move on to the vote of thanks. May I invite Mrs. Nagalakshmi R., Professor, Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, LMS College of Pharmacy, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you. I have been bestowed with the responsibility of delivering the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Rajashree R.S., Dean, Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, KUHAS, Professor and Head, CPS TDMC Alappuzha, who delivered the presidential address. I would like to thank Ms. Veena Rajesh, Senior Pharmacist, Dubai Duty Free, Dubai International Airport, who delivered the welcome address. I extend my full-hearted gratitude to the respected resource person, Dr. M.K. Unnikrishnan, former Professor, Manipal College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Manipal, and Adjunct Professor, Amrita School of Pharmacy, Kochi, for his outstanding and thought-provoking lecture. Next, I would like to thank Chair and the moderator, Dr. Sapna Sriguma, Professor and Head, Department of Pharmacognosy, Nehru College of Pharmacy, Thrissur, whose valuable suggestions have helped us. I would like to thank Dr. K. Radha, Professor, CPS Government Medical College, Kottayam, who felicitated us. I also thank Ms. Adira R.S., Tutor, Pharma Talk Academy, Hyderabad, for her prayer. And the Master of Ceremony, Ms. Anita Elsa Kuriakos, Assistant Professor, Sri Gokulam SNGM College of Pharmacy, Thuravur. I also thank Dr. P.K. Srigumar, President, Kerala Pharmacy Graduate Association, Sri Abdul Nasir P.U., General Secretary, KPGA, Dr. Kala D., Vice President and Women's Wing Chairperson, Principal, Sri Gokulam College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and all office bearers of KPGA who arranged this wonderful session. Last but not least, I would like to thank all the participants of this webinar who devoted their valuable time by joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. The link for the e-certificates is shared in the chat box. We request the participants to get their e-certificates within 48 hours.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Next, let's all rise for the national anthem. Thank you all for your valuable presence. Good night to all.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you and good night to all. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you and good night.